Imagine marrying the one guy everyone in the world told you to stay away from. Now imagine that 20 years later, after all the lawsuits, the threats, and the public meltdowns, you are still standing right next to him at a movie premiere. Most people learn their lesson after the first time a relationship explodes, but Denise Richards isn't most people. She seems to have this weird need to be the person who saves the man who cannot be saved. And looking at where she is now, it is clear that this choice has cost her everything. The story starts like a bad movie. They met when she did a guest spot on his show. Back then, Charlie Sheen was the biggest star on TV. He was making millions, and Denise was the beautiful Bond girl that every guy wanted to be with. She says he was a perfect gentleman at first. He was polite, he was sweet, and she thought she had found the one. But there was a massive problem. Everyone else knew exactly who Charlie Sheen was. He had already spent tens of thousands of dollars on escorts. He had accidentally shot a previous girlfriend in the arm. His reputation was already in the trash. But Denise didn't care. She said she didn't want to judge him based on the tabloids. She thought she knew the real him. They got married in 2002, and for a minute it looked like maybe he had actually changed. But that didn't last long. By the time Denise was pregnant with their second daughter, the whole thing was falling apart. She didn't just leave him, she fled. She literally packed her bags while he was at work and went to a hotel just to feel safe. What followed was one of the messiest divorces in the history of Hollywood. Denise went to court and claimed that Charlie was a violent gambler who used prostitutes and looked at things online that no one should ever look at. She even got a restraining order to keep him away from her and their kids. At that point, any normal person would have walked away and never looked back. But this is where it gets weird. Instead of cutting him out of her life, Denise stayed. She became the good ex-wife. When Charlie had kids with his next wife, Brooke Mueller, and that marriage also turned into a nightmare, Denise was the one who stepped in. She actually took in his twin boys when social services removed them from their own mother's house. She was basically raising his kids from another marriage while he was off having a very public breakdown on the news. On the outside, people praised her for being so kind. They called her a saint. But if you look closer, it feels like she was just addicted to the drama. She kept letting him back into her circle. She invited him to her next wedding. She even said she wouldn't care if he brought a prostitute as his date. It's like she accepted that he was a mess and decided she was okay with it. But you have to wonder what that does to a person's life. Some people look at her career and say she could have been as big as Salma Hayek. Instead, she spent decades dealing with Charlie's legal battles and his angry tweets. And now we see them together again at a premiere. She just split up with her latest husband, and who is the first person she goes back to? Charlie. It's a pattern that never ends. While she's smiling for the cameras with him, their own daughter, Sammy, has his number blocked. Sammy says she hasn't talked to him in a year because he keeps sending her crazy messages. Even his own child has realized that the only way to be happy is to stay away from him. But Denise just can't do it. She thinks she is being a supportive friend, but really she is just enabling the same bad behavior that ruined her life years ago. She claims they are absolutely friends and that they've been through too much to be enemies anymore. But being friends with someone like that isn't a badge of honor, it's a trap. She has tied herself to a sinking ship for over 20 years, and every time she tries to swim away, she ends up pulling the ship closer. Denise Richards had the world at her feet. She was talented, beautiful, and famous, but she chose to spend her best years being the manager of the Charlie Sheen circus. And the worst part is, she doesn't even seem to realize that the circus is never going to leave town as long as she keeps paying for the tent. It's not a story about a nice person being helpful. It's a story about a woman who refused to believe the truth, even when it was screaming in her face. In the end, Charlie Sheen is exactly who he has always been. He hasn't changed. He's just older. The only thing that has changed is how much of her life Denise has given up to keep him around. She thinks she's a hero for staying, but the world is just watching and wondering when she will finally wake up and realize that some people just aren't worth saving.